Today is Thursday, August 22nd, 2019. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, the ex-wife of the Atlanta Housing Chief kills herself and her two children. Both of them members of the National Association of Black Journalists. Will give you the details. Also, folks, today, 400 years since the first 20-odd Africans arrived in the United States, the NAACP. They kicked off this in Jamestown, Virginia last week. Now they are in Ghana. We'll be joined by NAACP President Derrick Johnson live from Ghana discussing their historic trip. Also, we'll talk to Civil Rights Attorney Gloria Browne-Marshall about 400 years of perseverance from 1619 through 2019. And also, I'm going to share an announcement with you on how we are going to commemorate the 400 years right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Actress Priscilla Shirer talks about her new movie, The Overcomer, is opening this weekend. Again, the focus on Christian movie buyers. And the countdown to power continues. I'll talk with my man Tommy. Y'all know him as Tommy, but his real name is Joseph Sikora, right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Folks, it's time to bring the funk. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
Folks, a truly sad story out of Atlanta. Dr. Marsha Edwards, the ex-wife of Atlanta Housing Authority Board Chair Dr. Christopher Edwards, is believed to have shot and killed the couple's two children before turning the gun on herself. Their bodies were found inside her townhouse doing a welfare check this morning, actually Wednesday night. Now, police have not released any further information about the apparent double murder suicide, citing an ongoing investigation. Their children, you see right there, Christopher Jr., 24 years old, Aaron Edwards, 20 years old. Aaron was she was just in Miami with us, the National Association of Black Journalists. She recently completed an internship with WNBC TV out of New York. Christopher also worked for social media for the city of Atlanta's film division. And again, this just a stunning story there. Their father also, of course, he not only ex-housing chief, also involved on the board of directors there at Morehouse as well. And so no one knows exactly what happened, what took place again, but just a truly sad story. Of course, Dr. Marsha Edwards taking the life of her two children, 24 and 20 years old. Also, we got some new details of the shooting that took place at Clark, Atlanta, where 4 students were injured, 2 from Spelman, 2 from Clark, Atlanta as well. There's going to be a tightened security at Clark, Atlanta as a result of what took place. Again, there was a block party that took place in front of the Atlanta University Center Library. And so the university is going to be stepped up. Go to my iPad, Henry. This is from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. The university's public safety employees will start working 12-hour shifts to enable us to provide 24-hour coverage on campus. And that's coming from the interim president of Clark, Atlanta, that's taking place there as well. And so they normally have 8-hour shifts of the police department, but now they were going to have 12-hour shifts from now on. Also, the city of Atlanta is also increasing their presence. And so this is, again, something that has to happen. This is not the first time we have heard about this taking place on a college campus. Obviously, remember also, you have the shooting that took place at Grambling last year as well. Our panel here, Dr. Julian Malveaux, economist, president emerita, Bennett College, Dr. Craig Carr, chair Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University, Erica Savage Wilson, host Savage Politics podcast. Julian, I want to start with you. The reality is this is what no university president wants to deal with, but when you look at a situation like Clark, Atlanta, Morehouse, Spelman, unlike other universities where you have an enclosed environment, or other universities where you're pretty much like sort of far out in your own community, these three institutions literally are right
They're
there
in the hood,
in the city, in the neighborhood. And so it's not just a closed off deal. You got people who live nearby who are coming in and out of those campuses as well. And so it's unfortunate that this actually happened.
You know, Roland, I didn't know that story when I came on, so it takes my breath away. It literally takes my breath away, because I remember Bennett, it was in the hood.
Right.
You had people who could walk onto the campus from the neighborhood. You know, there were ways you could cut through the campus to get from one street to another. And we had a couple of shooting incidents that were horrible. And I just feel like we have to do some stuff around our campuses, around our young people. And Roland.
So hold on a second. I'm going to do this. I'm going to come back to this. Here's why. I'm coming back to this because Derrick Johnson, who's in Ghana right now, is actually on the phone. So let me just do this. I'm going to go to Derrick. I'm going to come back to this subject right here because Derrick has to go. Derrick, you're there in, are you in Accra, Ghana right now, Derrick?
We are in Accra here with close to 300 of our members, friends, and partners to recognize the 400th year of the transatlantic slave trade.
And first of all, you started in Jamestown, Virginia. Now you're in Accra, Ghana. And you've been planning this trip for a whole year. And one of the things that also jumps out here is how eye-opening has it been for a lot of people who had never been to the motherland?
I think it's been a trip for many of a lifetime. The Ghanaian government and people have embraced us with open arms. We started the very first day meeting with the president and local chief of the Jamestown Accra region. That has been followed up with multiple tours. We leave in the morning to go to Cape Coast, where they will be unveiling for many people of their DNA results. That was done by AfricanAncestry.com as we, recapture what it was like for many individuals to go to the door, no return, into the slave dungeons, to leave this land of Africa, never to come back. So it's been an eye-opening experience for young, old, and everyone in between.
Henry, go to my iPad. I'm showing right now photos from Tiffany Lofton. She, of course, is the head of your youth and college division, where y'all visit the W.E.B. Du Bois Center in Accra, Ghana, where he and his wife are buried. This photo is a photo of her touching their tomb. And so a lot of people, have folks been surprised by this connection that exists there between African Americans and Ghana? Ghana, probably out of any other African nation, has really embraced this connection between African Americans and the motherland.
But not only are people pleased with the warmth in which we've been received, the Ghanaian people have probably one of the closest connections with the African American community. Many Ghanaians live among us. Oftentimes, we may not know someone is from Ghana unless we have that conversation. There are many African American expats who live here, and they have integrated into the life of the Ghanaian culture. It is a beautiful opportunity for many others to see, understand, and appreciate the closeness that we share in terms of being African culture, African people, and many of our habits, how we communicate with one another. You can see it vividly as we kind of go through the country landscape and talk to many of the leaders. All
right, then. And how much longer are y'all going to be there?
Well, some will be leaving on the 25th. Others will stay all the way through the 28th. We're going to visit Cape Coast, Kumasi. We're going to spend time with Ashanti, go through the ritual of the golden soup, or visiting the Nkrumah, where he's laid to rest. I mean, this is a wonderful, wonderful trip. We've had the Grand Bosses of Omega Southside join us. We've had the Grand Saracom of the Boulay on the trip with us. So we have a really, really powerful delegation. And what's amazing, more and more people are showing up we didn't know was going to be here, and they're joining in. So this has been a wonderful opportunity to celebrate our culture as we recognize the 400th benchmark year of the transatlantic slave trade.
All right, Derrick Johnson, CEO, NAACP. I surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, so let's go back to the conversation we were having. Sorry about that. I was again, we were going to lose Derrick, and it's because I think it's what's it, about 10, 11 o'clock there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
About 6
so,
hours later.
Brother, I gotta go to sleep. No, because I was checking because I was talking about because I'm actually going to be in Ghana in I think in December, and so I was trying to figure out, okay, if I do the show from there, what time I'll be doing the show.
6 hours.
And so so it's like midnight. So so let's go back to the conversation we were having in terms of how do we keep, and look, if you're a parent, you're sending your kid to college, the last thing you want to do is get a phone call saying your son or daughter was shot at a party. Juliana, go ahead.
I just had an emotional moment and had to hold my brother's hand. I'm just flashing back. Our campuses are not safe because our society is not safe. But the other piece that I was looking at was the story you started with the sister who killed her children. And one of the things, I'm not going down 45ville, but in the Black community, we do not deal with mental health at all. The two things that we leave out of healthcare are dental health and mental health. We do not pay attention to them. And so there are a lot of people walking around with a lot of pain and a lot of stress. And so that sister who killed her children and herself, God, Roland, I don't even know what to say to you. Now, when we then talk about what's happening on campuses, why do our people feel that a gathering of young'uns is a place where you would take out your rage? Roland, I like I said, Greg, bless my brother, held my hand because I just wanted to cry about it. Because I remember having similar situations at Bennett where, I had one situation it would have been funny, but it wasn't. It's a Malvo story where some little Negro came on campus to go shoot some woman because she cut him loose. And I jumped on him. And he said, "You the president." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm like, whoop your, you know what?"
Everybody's mama here.
I'm like, you don't get to do that.
No question.
There is an anger thing going on, but there also is the availability of guns. Let's start with the guns. Let's start with these guns that can kill so many people. And our HBCU land is no different from any other campus situation, Roland. I mean, we've had this happen in other places, so let's not make this an HBCU problem, because all too often people want to make things that happen at HBCUs an HBCU problem, and they're not. They're societal problems, and they're hurtful problems, and they're challenges that we have to deal with. Clark Atlanta, as you said earlier, and it was a really great opening, Roland, it's in the middle of the hood. It's in the city. You can just walk, just like Howard.
Absolutely.
Just like,
like Temple and Penn and Ohio State.
Yeah.
And that's exactly right. They're urban campuses.
And people, in the urban campus, anybody can walk up on them.
That's exactly.
So we have to really do our work to protect our young'uns.
That's right.
There's a story out of Southeast Washington, little brother on the way to Bowie.
Yeah.
Opened the door and somebody shot him.
My God.
On the way to Bowie. Did everything that he was supposed to do. Passed tests, followed the rules, and some fool shot him because we still don't know why. They still ain't found a fool.
That's right.
But this is what our young people are vulnerable to, and we must protect them.
Greg, what I'm showing here, this is a photo from the Twitter account of Sarah Glover, the immediate past president of NABJ.
Oh, wow.
This was from our convention in Miami.
It's both the kids.
And in fact, all three, Dr. Marsha Edwards, she also was a member of NABJ, along with her two children. And our convention, literally, folks, was just 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And this photo was taken of those two both gone. Greg, obviously working on a college campus. Look, students, they just got back. School just started. This is like
This
is like the kickoff to a school there at Clark Atlanta.
Yeah.
And then they have to begin with this shooting.
That's right. Well, Roland, I'm glad you showed that picture, brother. I've been in contact with a number of friends and colleagues at Morehouse School of Medicine, Clark, Morehouse, and two things on the Edwards family. And you've cautioned us against this many times. You've done it on social media. You've done it on all your platforms. As stories break, you've cautioned us to wait until the whole story is told.
Yeah.
A couple of people I talked to said, Cobb County is now rife. You're seeing spikes in white supremacists. They're saying, let's wait until we see the rest of this story. They don't necessarily know whether or not this sister killed her children and killed herself at all, because they said it was against everything they knew her to be. everything they knew her husband to be. So, I mean, as we see this unfold, I mean, you know, but if it isn't,
let's wait.
like you said, Doc, this is a tragedy. We don't deal with mental health. As far as the college campus is concerned, you know, it's interesting because as we know, as you said, it's in the hood. Clark, Atlanta, and literally Morehouse were across the street from a housing project. Vernon Jordan used to tell the story about how when they were little boys growing up in the projects, they would look over and see Benjamin Mays walking from his office to campuses, and they would model walking like Benny Mays, even though they were in the projects. What you said, Doc, is so true. Just because we live in the hood didn't mean we didn't have values. As this society has deteriorated, our people are commingling. A couple of my very good friends on the Clark faculty in Morehouse said they were having a block party for all the kids in the AUC. And it was some people, some cats from Atlanta, who decided to show up and do what happened. But I went to school in North Philly. Temple is in the hood. You see this police presence where they've literally moved black people out of North Philadelphia so those white kids can walk around without any concern. Same thing in West Philly with Penn. Are we going to now have to treat our own people that way? Or can we go back to the days when a young Vernon Jordan could model Buck Benny?
We protected each other.
Erica?
And I'll say this, because I have the unique experience. My son is at Morehouse. So I got a phone call from public safety at 12:45 a.m. And so to just be very blunt, my heart dropped. He lives off campus in Midtown.
Yes.
But just understanding that he could possibly have gone to that gathering.
Yes.
Thank God he did not. He's not a kid that really likes crowds a lot. But I think to everyone's point is that within those campuses, those campuses are usually in the hood. And that area around there is being actively gentrified. And I think this experience, because I've had these phone calls, unfortunately, several times over the years, is really to bring the discussion to the kids as well, to include them in these discussions where we're talking about gun safety and gun violence.
Yes.
I'm going right now. This is from the the Facebook page of Dr. Marsha Edwards, and these photos were posted just 2 days before this shooting took place. This was when she and her daughter, they were at the Vatican in Rome. Photos were posted at 5:22 a.m. on Monday morning. And again, investigators there are still investigating what happened. And so it is certainly sad. Dr. Marsha Edwards was 58 years old. Her son, Christopher, was 24. And again, you see a photo there of Aaron. She was 24. And this is, again, one of the last images, go to my iPad, of mother and daughter, again, just 2 days ago. So to Dr. Malvo's point, we don't know what happened, but the reality is we do know so many other times where murder-suicides have taken place. And yeah, even though she lived in an upscale home, Dad was on the board of directors of Morehouse School of Medicine, orthopedic surgeon. One never knows what has happened inside of somebody's home. And so certainly thoughts and prayers go out to them. And if any of you, to Dr. Malvo's point, if you are under stress and duress and you are at that breaking point, please pick that phone up, call someone, call a suicide hotline, call your church, call a friend. Because there is always a way out, as opposed to taking your life and that of your two children. So we'll certainly have those details for you when they become available. All right, folks, let's talk about 1619 to 2019. The Association for the Study of African American Life and History is also commemorating the arrival of those first Africans by honoring 400 years of African American resilience. We're going to talk about this with ASLA Commemorative Chair, Dr. Gloria Browne-Marshall. Before I go to her, Greg Carr, I want to talk about this because what's interesting is it's very interesting seeing all these white people lose their mind because of literally losing their mind because of the New York Times 16 Project.
Yeah, this piece here.
Dinesh D'Souza, all these people, all these conservatives. I had to smack Mark Levin around. Let me pull his tweet up, which was hilarious because the reason they are so angry, they're so upset because they just can't fathom the idea of white folks not getting credit for everything, and can't fathom what it feels like to actually have somebody challenge his story and show them a different place of history. In fact, this fool wrote this piece. Go to my iPad, Henry. No, America wasn't built on slavery, but faith that all men are created equal. And so the Federalist folks, they put, so he sent this out. And of course, I cracked the hell up laughing. So some little white kid wrote it named Joshua Lawson. And again, they are just great. They can't handle.
They can't take it. They can't take
Greg, they
it.
can't handle it.
And they can't even handle this little bit of truth.
My God.
This ain't even the heavy hitters. But you know, I understand. I mean, they're scared, and they should be. They should be.
And that's the, of course,
this is the
1619 project they put together.
Yeah.
Again, there are numerous other things that will be happening,
Right.
but it's amazing to see the freak out.
Yeah. Well, they're not in control anymore.
Right.
See, I mean, you know, Anderson
It's taken 400. It's taken.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Finish that point. Finish that point.
apologize.
Control point.
Anderson Thompson, a scholar, said all history is about the future. They're looking at a world that's increasingly non-white. And as this story comes out, they don't have any control over it. The New York Times has probably kept its ability to attract white readership. If they don't change their model, they're going to go out of business.
There you go.
This isn't something they gave anybody. I mean, they didn't. You had Nicole on the other day. They didn't give Nicole Hannah-Jones this. They realize if they don't do this, they're gonna be talking to themselves. And these little handful of white supremacists hanging around the edges, they are trying to scream at them, no, no, no. But I mean, finally, you know, I'm just looking at something about the European Union. There are about 500 million people in the European Union. There are about 1.25 billion in Africa right now, where Derrick is. 40% of those people are under 15 years old. By 2050, as the demographics change here, they're saying that there are going to be about 450 million people in Europe, meaning 50 million less. And in Africa, there'll be 2 billion people. White people now got to face a choice: your whiteness or your life. These people hanging on to something that's already gone, Roland. So you ain't got to slap them around. They're going to fall, brother.
Julian, go.
You know, Nicole Hannah-Jones is absolutely brilliant, and she has really done great work. But the bigger issue is that these folks don't want truth.
Right.
I mean, the truth is galling to them. I mean, I'm reading, I don't know why, and probably it's why I'm nuts, all this lynching stuff, trying to connect lynching to economics.
Yeah.
And as I'm reading this stuff, I mean, as at the Library of Congress, the black people come in like, Doc, you can't make mouth noises. Because I read stuff and I'll be like, ooh, this is horrible. And I'm back in the stacks, where you're supposed to be quiet. You know? And I'm like, ooh. But the point is that there is evil in the foundation of this country. There is pure, ugly evil in the foundation of this country.
That's right.
The only way this country has survived and thrived is through exploiting black people, period. End of conversation.
That's true.
And they can't manage that. They can't manage it. We tell a history that people read in school, and that history is a warped history. It ain't the whole truth. It's a warped version of the truth.
First of all, it ain't the whole truth. It ain't close near the truth. Let me bring in Dr. Gloria Browne-Marshall, then I'm going to go to Erica. Dr. Marshall, the thing about this also is that what y'all are focusing on with at ASALH is the perseverance piece. There's so many people who want to focus on, how painful it was, but what you're saying is, no, that we persevered with everything that was thrown our way.
That's it. And if we don't ourselves talk about our perseverance, why would they say, hey, you know what? You did something with the civil rights movement that other countries had to use weaponry. There's a civil war still going on in Syria to get what we got during the civil rights movement. But they're not going to tell us, oh, you guys did a great job. You know, they're not going to say, how did you do that you had your black men fighting in the Civil War, but for your black soldiers, we would have lost in the North. They're not going to give us that credit. That's why we have to say 400 years of perseverance, that we kept our humanity at a time when they called us everything less than a child of God, and we couldn't even show in our eyes that we didn't believe it, but in our hearts we did, and that power of the Spirit is what got us this far, and that's the 400 years of perseverance that the Association for the Study of African American Life and History is focusing on.
You're going to be having an event taking place this weekend in Hampton, Virginia, correct?
I am there now. It is amazing. I was on Voice of America earlier today talking about 400 years of perseverance. And then tomorrow from 6 to 8 p.m., the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, the organization started by Carter G. Woodson, who started Black History Month, is going to have a panel, and that is at the chapel at Hampton University. And we're going to talk about criminal justice, the Black child. We're going to talk about the family. We're going to talk about the socialization of America and how it is now trying to have this artificial assimilation of Black people, like pretend that your education, your alma mater, and your money means more than your race, and we might treat you right.
Eric, I want to bring you in here. This is the reason why I believe this is even more important is because not only are we now operating in a totally different world, we're now operating, to Greg's point, where white media can't ignore us. Here we are 51 years after the Kerner Commission report that said there were two Americas, one white, one black. What you also have, though, is you now have Black folks being able to access independent media like this, which is also not new because we had Black newspapers since March of 1827, Freedom's Journal. Of course, we know about Chicago Defender, Pittsburgh Courier, Atlanta Daily World, and we can go on and on and on. But the other thing that you're now dealing with is because now of social media, the traditional gatekeepers can try as hard as they want to stop it from getting out, but they can't win because we can now bypass. To be perfectly honest, if the New York Times didn't do this, it would still have been done.
Right. The message is like water. And so what I'm loving about this, too, is that old adage, if you want to hide something from people, put it in black and white. Well, it is in print, and it is in print for not only us, but it's in print for the international community as well. And then they're also taking it a step further with a curriculum, the 1619 Project, a curriculum. So now you're talking about this is going to be the minds in the hands of developing minds. So the whole kind of like fire behind 1619, people trying to push against it, is what Dr. Carr said. It's already over. We're just kind of like, we're doing a little bit of cleanup, but it's already over.
Gloria, go ahead.
Yeah, at this one point, one of the other issues we're going to talk about with a panel tomorrow at 6 p.m. at Hampton Chapel is that 1619, we were not enslaved. Slave laws were created over a 50-year period after 1619. And the reason why they keep focusing on, this is the beginning of slavery, that makes them one cog in the wheel of slavery that was already taking place with the Portuguese and the French and the Spanish. Right. So that when we arrived in those 20 and odd Negroes that John Rolfe put in his journal in 1619, it was like, well, we were just doing what everybody else was doing. No, because that's why the story of Mary and Anthony Johnson, the Black couple in the 1600s who owned land and had servants in the 1600s. And then the lawmakers changed the laws, made them aliens and forced them off of their land, confiscated it, and forced them out. Why? Because when you own land, you had voting rights. And voting rights meant a voice in that colony. And they refused to have Africans be able to vote, and they forced them out of that colony. And that's what they don't want to talk about. The English want us to see ourselves as slaves, and that's not what happened. They enslaved us over time by law.
I think that's
So, Roland, if we can look at this from a historical perspective in terms of the wealth gap, which is what everyone is talking about now in terms of reparations, what we look at is a systematic ability of white legislators to take from Black people who were not enslaved land, as Gloria said. Thank you, my sister. I appreciate you so much. But to take land, to take agency, because it allowed them to have a labor force. And that's what this is all about. We go back through all of this. It's about having a labor force.
Sure.
It's about Black people being the labor force.
Sure.
And so as you had Black people who were enslaved, you know, even we look at the lynching laws that I've been looking at, and that's why I'm crazy these days, y'all. But you look at this, it was about basically people not having control of their bodies because white people needed to have their labor.
Sure.
And this goes all the way back.
Greg?
Well, no, I was going to say very quickly, I think this is where we have to, it's very complicated. The American project is nothing to be proud of participating in. Perseverance is, for sure. But the 1619 date is really meaningless except that it's part of a larger narrative, as you say.
Yeah.
The Portuguese and the Spanish, as we just heard Professor Browne-Marshall talk about, those were hijacked by a British schooner. These were buccaneers. They pirates, basically. The Europeans had declared war on Africans a century earlier. Columbus and then the Portuguese and the Spanish are here. They were in Spanish Florida, so forth and so on. But I don't want to get too far beyond the point. The original sin in this settler state we call the United States is not the enslavement of Africans. It is the dispossession of millions of Aboriginal people of their land. So I don't take any pride in saying that we helped build this country. And this narrative that is in this New York Times Magazine, I think the deep flaw in it, which can be corrected, as you said, Roland, through independent black media. You can look at any 10 years between the beginning to the middle of the 1960s in Ebony Magazine to the beginning to the middle of the 1970s and just read Lerone Bennett, just read William Leo Hansberry. And each one of those articles is superior to anything in this issue here. The black press has been saying this for years. 1619 is about creating a mythical notion of America.
Yes.
This is Anglo-centric history. But if we to take this history seriously, those people who were brought to Port Comfort were traded for food.
Right.
Even though technically their names, where they were not enslaved, they had been turned into objects.
Yeah.
They had come from Angola. I am so jealous of Derrick and Tiffany and them. My first trip to Ghana was 1996. When you're on the right side of the Atlantic, when this foolishness is going on, everything shoots into
Honey,
perspective.
W.B. Du Bois was my first
No
husband.
question.
Was my first husband.
Dr. Browne-Marshall, and to one of the greatest points, what y'all are doing is y'all are emphasizing the work of black scholars putting all of this in proper perspective, correct?
Correct, because I was in Angola myself in April. And what really concerns me is that there is so much about African history that the Europeans have decided to omit or just really hide. And so we are trying to find the scholarship so that we can present the information for everybody to learn. And that's what Carter G. Woodson was about when he created this whole idea of African-American scholarship, which they thought was laughable back in 1915, that we had no history to study. And so when we look at where we are in the world, as was pointed out, the pinpoint might change here and there when we discover more information from different trips to the motherland. But just know we're on the case. And we're trying to bring the scholarship to it because we're worth the effort.
So, so this is what is going to happen, folks. And because I had a lot of people who were hitting me up, they were like, "Hey, you know, August 20th and that week, you know, Roland, what are you going to be doing about 1619, 2019?" And I said, "That week, probably nothing." And then they were like, "Okay, I'm not understanding." Because here's the piece, folks. So the date of August 20th, so people are commemorating that date. Whereas the way I look at this whole thing is you could actually spend the year talking about what happened on that date, but also what happened afterwards. It's sort of like when I had I turned 50, people like, are you doing a 50th birthday party? I said, no, because I'm real busy. Then I said, you do know I could throw a 50th birthday party anytime between November 14th, 2018, and then November 14th, 2019, because I'll be 50 the whole year. and then I said, and if I don't throw one, I can always throw a 50+1 party after November 14, 2019. Why am I saying all of that? Because I believe the mistake that we make is when we only focus attention on something that's tied to a date.
That's right.
So the reason you never see me do Black History Month stuff, because we do Black History every day.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to be confined to February. And there's no disrespect to anybody out there who has stuff. But again, because we focus on black people, we do this every single day. So it's not Black History Month. For us, it's Black History Day. So Gloria doesn't know what I'm about to tell y'all, because she's gonna probably, I guarantee you, she's gonna be ecstatic when she hears this. So here's what's going to happen, okay? And again, I had Nicole Hannah-Jones on. It's great they're selling out of this, the magazine, and people are getting copies. They're sending copies to HBCUs around the country.
But we also have a faculty with a curriculum, so it's not like we actually need these.
Right,
but it's nice.
So here's what's going to happen, okay? On Roland Martin Unfiltered, we're actually going to have every week a 1619 to 2019 conversation. So what's going to happen is we're going to have professors, scholars, folks from HBCU campuses, because let me also be real clear, this is no disrespect, this is not shade at anybody else, and Greg knows this because he's gotten my text messages when these things happen.
Absolutely.
It bothers me when I watch documentaries that are done about black people. And the only black people who I see in the documentaries are black people who are professors at Harvard, Yale,
Princeton.
Wow.
Columbia,
That's right.
Princeton, Stanford, and a handful of other places. That bothers me. And so,
Should.
what we're going to do is every week we're going to have a segment on this show, bringing on different voices, talking about all of these different dimensions of the black experience and our impact from 1619 forward. Gloria just laid out there were black folks before 1619. You need to know who they are. We're going to talk about those. Now, and we're going to have, so let's be real clear. This is about us using this platform to teach, to educate, to get you to understand more about history. Y'all know how I feel about books. You can expect us to throw a whole bunch of book titles at you that you're going to be able to look up via the hashtag Roland's Book Club on Twitter and Facebook as well. But we don't want to simply confine 400 years of people of African descent in America to just this week. We want you to understand its impact throughout the course of the year. Gloria, your thoughts?
I think it's wonderful. I mean, my book is Race, Law, and American Society, 1607 to present. And I wrote it, came out, the first edition, in 2007. And it speaks about education, property rights, military, criminal justice. There's so much in it because it's all intertwined and you can't just do it all at once. So I am ecstatic. I am so happy because we have to look at this. This thing is just like tentacles strangling us. And we also have to talk to our young people and get our spirits fed. Because before we had education, before we had money, before we had affluence or influence, we had a spirit that drove us when we had nothing. And that spirit needs to be fed so that we can start looking at the year 2045 when this country becomes officially people of color in the majority. And these folks are planning for an apartheid state. And if we don't get our spirit together, we're going to be patsies in this war. And we need to be thinking about strategies based on our history and going forward to the future to a freedom that's beyond anything we can imagine right now.
Erica, Greg, then Julian, then we're going to close it out. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm really excited that Professor did bring up the piece that they're going to be dealing, brought up the piece about the apartheid state, because I think that's something that we continually need to discuss and that we need to bring to the public conversation. What people are seeing that are happening in these different legislative bodies are not by happenstance, that what is happening is the consolidation of power so that it will mirror what South Africa was in the 80s. And so we need to hammer that point home so that when those conversations do roll around in mainstream media, that it's not a surprise to the audience, because that is exactly what we're seeing happen.
That's exactly right. I would just add that as you all are watching this today, and you encourage people to go back and watch this again on YouTube or Facebook or whatever platform, Periscope, this specific episode, this could be a moment when everything turns. If you're not watching Roland Martin Unfiltered, if you're not supporting Roland Martin Unfiltered, now's the time to do it. Why? Because this 1619 to 2019 conversation you're going to have on a weekly basis, this reinforces, and Sister Gloria, I know your book well. In fact, I've taught excerpts of it at Howard Law School. That we get a Gloria Browne-Marshall in that to talk about the law, to talk about it. And as you said, Erica, this notion of what's going forward, this is about the federal bench and all that stuff. This stuff has been written about A. Leon Higginbotham, all Charlie Houston at Howard Law School. Black institutions have led in this. When you said, Roland, we do it every day, Carter Woodson, in March 1950, the last editorial he published in Negro History Bulletin, he said, you all have gotten Negro History Week backward. He said, Negro History Week is the short period of time when we celebrate what we studied the whole year and then face the rest of the public and educate them. That was during the time we had independent black institutions, even though it was segregation. So my point is this, by having this conversation every week, we do two things. Number one, we link to that long arc and tradition of black institutions defining black reality. That's why I'm glad Asala is at the table, because there are a bushel of scholars that are doing that. The other thing it does, you bring out a network so that, and like I say, no disrespect to Nicole Hannah-Jones or my friend Khalid Muhammad, Gabran Muhammad at Harvard, or Tayemba Jess, the great poet, but let's be clear. Roland, as you shared this with me a couple of days ago, I started putting out some feelers, letting people know Colita Nichols Fairfax, who is on faculty at Norfolk State, who's the co-chair of the 1619 Commission at Hampton Roads, is so excited. Sam Livingston at Morehouse, Danny Black at Clark Atlanta.
Danny,
people, I mean, you won't have enough segments.
Right.
But what it will do is show the world that we don't need any help from the New York Times. In fact, y'all got this story a little wrong, but we're going to correct you over the arc of a year. And this is because Roland Martin Unfiltered exists. Y'all got to support this platform.
Nice.
Thank you.
We wear the mask that grins and lies, that hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. Paul Laurence Dunbar. See, a Negro, and many of them are my friends, who work at Harvard, Princeton, Yale, etc., they wear the mask that grins and lies, that hides their cheeks and shades their eyes. There is but so much they can do. We can go back and look at what has happened with Cornel West, between Harvard and Princeton, Harvard and Princeton. We can look at many others. You're not free. You're not free when you work for white people. You're just not free. You tethered when you work for black people,
Right.
but you're somewhat free. And so, Roland, first of all, you know, I love, admire, and respect you, and I appreciate the fact that you're doing this. I think it's so extraordinarily important. I think it's important for our people to understand that our voices are ours, and that we must claim our voices and all of that. And untethered and just free. We must talk about lynching. Again, I'm very emotional today. You started with a story that hit me at home, and I had to hold my brother's hand. But we must talk about what ails us as black people, and yet what we have done. When I think about the lynching of Mary Turner, Mary Turner was a 19-year-old black woman. I think I've told the story on the show before. 19 years old. Her husband was lynched. She went to the courthouse and said, there will be justice. So they lynched her. But not only did they lynch her, Roland, they tied her up upside down, threw kerosene on her body, and lit her on fire. And I didn't realize how many lynchings had burnings alive associated with them. As I started reading this stuff. About half of the lynchings, people were burned alive.
Exactly.
Then she was 9 months pregnant. They slit her belly open, the fetus came out, and they stomped the fetus. This is a story that not only black America must own, but white America must own. These people went to church the next day.
Come on.
They went to church and kneeled down and praised the Lord after they did this to this woman. The only way you could do this is by dehumanizing her, by suggesting that she was not a human being, and so that you could do that. And this is a history that we must own. So, Roland, first of all, high props. You know, I don't give you alpha people too much.
But you have to.
You have to.
See, just hate. Just hate. It's all good.
She got it in.
You got it in.
But in this instance, I will. You know how I am. DST boo-boo. But in any case, I really appreciate what you're doing. But I also want us not to take this artificial 1619 date, because it also disrespects our Native American brothers and sisters. It acts as if they came and they brought the black folks. No, they were doing spit for the longest time, and I'm so good I didn't curse today. But they were doing this stuff to us for the longest time, and they were also dehumanizing people of color. And so we have to own that.
Right.
And Gloria Browne-Marshall, I just really salute her, as I salute you, Roland. And you know, you, beyond everything else, your show is a service to black America.
That's exactly right.
It's a service to black America.
Gloria, again, tomorrow night, Hampton. Tomorrow and Saturday.
I might drop my
also,
show down.
I've got to hopefully. He's also going to happen, folks. So we're also trying to work with Gloria's team to try to see if we can piggyback on top of their stream to also stream it out to our platform as well. And obviously, you know, with the 2.5 million social media followers, we've got more than 351,000 folks who are now subscribers on YouTube. And so we want to be able to amplify that as much as possible. And so, Gloria, go ahead and get the information out. What time and where people, and is it open to the, I'm assuming it's open to the public there in Hampton?
It's free and open to the public from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the chapel at Hampton University. It's the kickoff, a scholarly kickoff with Black people telling our narrative, our story. And if people can't make it there, the Asala Conference is in Charleston, South Carolina, October 2nd through the 6th. So you'll get scholars, Black scholars, all day, every day, October 2nd through the 6th, talking about all types of issues of African-American life and history. In the theme of Carter G. Woodson, we've got to know ourselves, and then we can better understand the rest of the world.
All right. Dr. Gloria Browne-Marshall, we surely appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
All right, and folks, I just posted this on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm before I go to a break for one of our partners here, and that is this here, and this is just so you understand this here. And again, I know some of the folks who funded the 1619 project, and I know them well. But the reality is, we're independent. We don't have the money in the New York Times. We have all this sort of stuff along those lines. But the reality is, if you literally take the number of people who follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, let me just walk y'all through this. I'm trying to put this in perspective for you. If you take the number of people who follow me on just those 3 platforms, and if each one of those folks gave $10, $10, just less than $1 a month, that would literally fund Roland Martin Unfiltered for the next decade.
Wow.
Say what?
Let me repeat that.
You're an economist and blinked.
1 million people on Facebook, 520,000+ on Instagram, on Twitter, and you have 382,000 on Instagram. You're talking about nearly 2 million people. Actually, I take that back. With those 2 million people, if each one gave just $10, I take that back. That would actually fund what we do for the next 20 years. What I'm trying to get folks to understand is the only way. So what I just announced in terms of what we're going to do, because literally, okay. So here's what I need y'all to understand. Gloria just said they're going to have their conference in October. If our people who watch this fund this, then we can broadcast the show from that conference all 4 days.
Wow. Wow.
Then we could easily send somebody in a car, send a team down to Hampton tomorrow and live stream the events tomorrow and Saturday. We could literally take our own trips to the motherland and bring you stories directly from Ghana, Senegal, South Africa.
Go to Egypt with us in August.
Same thing.
Take the whole
Same
thing.
thing.
There you go.
Yeah.
Same thing.
You did not invite me.
Oh, yeah.
You kicked to the curb.
Greg said,
You know you got somebody.
I need y'all to understand that. I need y'all to understand that. Greg mentioned the work of Lerone, Bennett, and Ebony.
Come on. Man.
Y'all, Black people funded that.
Yes.
Black folks who bought
Yeah.
Ebony, that's what gave them the resources where they could send Lerone Bennett and Simeon Booker and those writers
Yes,
around
come on.
the country and the world. That's how they funded Robert Abbott and what Ethel Payne did and Louis Martin and Chuck Stone and all of those African Americans.
Call the roll, Roland.
So what I'm trying to get us to understand is, I just said $10. I'm looking right now. There are 379 of you right now who are watching us on Facebook. Let me give the number. Right now on Periscope, there are, let's see here. What's the number on Periscope? It was 107 that was on Periscope. Okay. Now I'm looking here. Let me refresh this. Right now, there are 1,360 of you watching us on YouTube. That means that's so 1,700. So there are 1,800 people who are watching us live right now. Okay. So that means if 1,800 people said, because we asked for $50. So let's just say $50, okay? 1,800 people, $50. Do the math. 1,800 times $10. Do the math. We have to understand that the only reason Ebony was able to tell those stories, because they were Black-owned and independent.
That's right.
The only way the Chicago Defender told those stories, they were Black-owned and independent. We don't need to ask other people, to Julianne's point, to tell our story. The first Black newspaper, Freedom's Journal, said in March of 1827, we wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. So we can't keep saying we need. And then when it's created, then we say, well, can somebody else support it? So y'all should be going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And for all y'all who have run out and spent your $5 on that Popeyes sandwich,
watch out now.
That ain't nasty.
Wait.
Might be a
Man.
mouse. Might
You wrong
Wait.
there,
might
bro.
be a mouse up
this is
in there.
all I'm
Listen,
saying.
if the chicken is real.
No, but this is,
know it ain't real.
and again, I ain't got no problem with a 3-piece, 4-piece Popeye.
I'm just
But
saying,
what
might be a mouse
I am
up in
trying to say to our people,
The blackest show on television.
I'm trying to say to our folks,
Listen.
there are Let me help y'all out. Matter of fact, I'm gonna pull up a tweet from Darren Rovell. Darren Rovell does the economy, does the economics of media. He tweeted earlier. Darren Rovell tweeted that Popeyes has received,
Oh, Lord.
because of Black Twitter and all this stuff around the chicken wars, $25 million in free advertising.
No, sir.
In free advertising. Lines are wrapped around the block.
That's what Eric-
Y'all,
just-
all I'm saying,
I'm saying. These are Negroes who have.
all I'm saying
Block.
is, Sakura, I got a couple of things with the show, so I'll be back in Roland Martin Unfiltered in just a moment. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. All right, folks, you heard me talk a lot about marijuanastock.org. Why? Because I want to keep you informed of investment opportunities that make sense. We've all watched the growth of the cannabis industry. A recent report by New Frontier Data estimates the global cannabis market at over $340 billion. Now, we know that marijuana legalization is sweeping the nation state by state. We also know that marijuana has a good cousin, the hemp plant, with a much higher concentration of CBD. That means hemp gives you all the medical benefits of marijuana without getting you high. Until recently, hemp farming was practically legal in the U.S. and heavily regulated by the DEA. However, the 2018 Farm Bill recently passed in Congress, making it legal to grow hemp CBD in the U.S. has created one of the largest commodities worldwide. What do they need? Land to grow all of the plants. Now, here's an incredible investment opportunity, and that's where our good friends at 420 Real Estate come in. Their business model is simple. They buy land that supports hemp CBD grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. That's right, they are hemp CBD landlords, and you can get in on the action. Our friends at 420 Real Estate decided to do something special for the Roland Martin Unfiltered family. Originally, the minimum investment level was $500. Now you can invest as little as $200. That's right, $200 up to $10,000. Again, this is a $340 billion industry that is still growing. You can participate with as little as $200. To invest, go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org. Get in the game and be sure to get in the game now. All right, folks, this weekend, a movie comes out in theaters. It is called The Overcomer. It is a Christian film that revolves around a high school basketball coach without a team and a teenage girl with asthma who becomes the school's only participant in its cross-country track program. It's an inspirational film. It stars Priscilla Shirer, and it opens this weekend. Of course, many of y'all also know her as she was in the movie War Room, and she, of course, also is the daughter of Reverend Tony Evans. She and I had a conversation about the movie, and here is an excerpt of our conversation.
Lord, call us to battle. You need to do your fighting in prayer.
You've been a good enough father. I don't want to be a good enough father.
something or someone will have first place in your heart. But when you find your identity in the one who created you, it'll change your whole perspective. What have you allowed to define you? Your identity will be tied to whatever you give your heart to.
Let's talk about this movie, Overcomer.
Yes.
It is not a sequel to War Room.
It is not. It's by the same filmmakers.
Okay.
It's their next film, but it's not the same as War Room.
And so, what is this one about?
Yes. It centers in on several main characters. The main one is a high school student. She's 15 years old, and she's struggling with issues of identity, just a lack of significance and self-worth. You know, she's a teenager, and who of us didn't struggle with that when we were teenagers? But compounded on that for her is a very dysfunctional sort of family that she has come from. She's struggling with feelings of abandonment and rejection and those sorts of things. Then there's a coach. His significance is found in his job, and his career is stripped away from him. So he finds himself totally decimated because the thing he's put his significance in is now no longer a part of his life. And then you find another guy as a main character in the film, and his health is stripped away from him. And now without his strength, without the use of his body, he's like, what value can I add to anybody's life? So you've got these three main characters that are all struggling with significance, and that really is, in a very poetic, incredible way that they've told the story, very emotional. You find these three people's lives being woven together, and the message is clear. That if you find your significance in things that can be taken away from you, like success or beauty or money or a certain acceptance by a group of people, well, there's nothing wrong with any of those things. But if your significance is tied to them, you're going to be in trouble. So it's all about rooting your identity in something that cannot change. And as believers, that is who God says we are. That doesn't change. We're forgiven, chosen, accepted. We are enough, whether or not other people applaud us or not.
One of the things that I hearken back to, Tyler Perry told this story. A lot of people don't realize that before BET, before OWN, before TBS, Tyler Perry had a development deal at ABC. And when he was doing the show, and one of the network executives, they sent notes down and said, hey, you know what? I think you're using Jesus a little too much. And they asked him to take it out, and he said, "This ain't for me," and walked away from the deal. And people were shocked by that. And I think that when you talk about faith-based films, there are some people. So I'd love to get your thoughts on the difference between a faith-based film and a spiritual film.
Well, first of all, let me say that I can relate in a obviously small way Tyler Perry described there. The reality is that there have been a lot of scripts that have passed my office now, because War Room was so successful. I got a lot of scripts after that, but not all of them are unapologetic gospel films. And there's a difference between just an inspirational film and a gospel film, a film that is designed to not water down the name of Jesus Christ and the gospel. And I know that because my purpose, I believe, for my life is not just acting, not just that very noble craft. But for me, my purpose is to share Jesus. My purpose is to encourage people in their walk with the Lord. So if I can do that on film, then the projects that have come across my desk, the ones that are not sugarcoating the name of Jesus and the ones that are going to be clearly designed to edify the body of Christ, that's what I'm supposed to do. That's just Priscilla's purpose. And so we live in a day and age now, Roland, where people are up at the theaters and spending their box office dollars on films that have excellence, because it used to be 10, 15 years ago, gospel films didn't have technical excellence. We were embarrassed to take our
well, first of all, from a technical, from a lighting standpoint, the writing wasn't great. And it was like,
terrible.
Jesus, 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 kind of like, okay, I know we believe in Jesus, but can this be a good story?
Yes, right. Exactly.
All right, folks, you're going to be able to see the full interview with Priscilla right after this show, and so we want to be able to have that for you. That's right, Jesus. Y'all know.
You wrong, man.
You on the road.
No,
I mean, just be
it's true. No, but it's true. It's true.
Right.
No, it's true.
It is
y'all know it ain't no different than you at church. It's a church play. You like,
Oh, I've been in a couple of them, brother.
you like, this is horrible.
As a child.
Memory.
And you trying to sit here and watch, you like, okay, this is horrible. Okay.
Beans coming off.
No,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't care.
Stop it.
I don't care. It can be church. It can be Christian.
Roll the
It
mark.
still has to be good.
Right.
Roll the mark.
No, it ain't no
Stop it.
front. I don't front. I'm sorry.
Jesus was a carpenter. He ain't built no janky stuff.
Right.
You know what Yankee said?
That's right. Y'all be right.
No, we not. No, it's
Yeah.
real.
Oh,
And the
yeah,
problem
okay.
is people too often
cray.
don't want to be honest.
That's right.
And that's why it needs to be quality. You're not trying to watch janky.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point to make. Like, thinking about just at large, like, because it is a church setting, that it does not mean that things can just be done any kind of way,
That's
or
right.
it's invoking Christ
I'm not
doesn't mean it
fooling
can be
with
done
y'all.
any kind of way.
I'm not fooling with
I
don't care.
I agree with that point.
He said the Lord don't
the
like
good
ugly.
Lord goes strike all y'all.
No, it's not. You know why?
Nah, we rebuke that.
Because the Bible says,
rebuke that.
the Bible
We rebuke
says,
that.
who did he give talents to?
That's right.
The point is to use your
you ain't no
talents.
preacher.
Use your
The point is to
Roland,
no. You ain't got to be a preacher. You
You're
can
a
read the
philosopher,
word.
but you ain't no preacher.
It's called. If you got talents, use them. And if you don't have talents, don't be over the plate.
That's true.
Stop it, Roland.
No. If you can't direct, don't direct.
Truth out there.
If you can't act, don't
on.
act.
Come
Just
on.
like I don't care if you singing a church song. You can't sing Usher.
Don't push them to the usher board because that's a level of excellence.
The choir now.
Listen,
No,
but
if
that
you
needs to
can't
be
sing,
a level of
don't
excellence too.
sing.
But don't.
I want you to hum. I want you just side to side. No.
No.
I'm tired of people in these games here. So it's the same thing. People think, oh, it's a Christian film. Y'all lighting bad. The audio bad. I ain't watching this.
Yeah.
But not this one. This one looks good.
No, absolutely. So Overcomer hits theaters this Friday. When the show is over, we're going to stream the whole interview with Priscilla Shirer. So look for that. Power debuts this weekend. Any fans of Power?
Yeah, I watch it, man.
I've
watched
not
that
seen
bit.
one episode.
You
Well, I had to watch it. I watch it in part because the kids watch it. I mean,
Of
it's the hottest
course.
thing, man.
I watch Queen Sugar and Greenleaf. That's all.
They watch that too.
Those are my two shows as well. So I've not seen one episode of
haven't seen
Power
Power.
or Empire.
We that. Plus,
I've
we
not
gotta
seen that
support
either.
our frat brother, Maury Hardwick, man. You
Well,
know,
see, that's y'all frat brother.
Well,
First of all,
To be
Alpha,
honest-
calm down. First of all, what's
Alpha,
wrong with
nobody's
y'all?
daddy.
Hold up,
Nothing.
Neither one of y'all seen Power?
Not one
In 6
episode.
years?
Not
No,
one
I have
episode.
not seen Power Rolling.
Wow.
Not one
And I'm
episode.
still cool,
And it's really
black, and
it's
all
okay.
that.
It's
Nope,
okay.
I haven't seen it.
It's
Explain
okay.
some of y'all.
And right out of mouth.
It's two Negroes. Clearly.
It's like this. Our rights
it's
book.
like they
We
call
are
it remote.
African
You ain't
Americans.
right.
We are African Americans, and we have not
we
seen
are
one
sisters.
episode of
You can
Power.
binge it
What
now.
I'm gonna need y'all to
Catch
do
up.
is,
Catch up.
I'm gonna need you to slide your black card to Greg.
Oh.
No, I'm gonna keep my black card.
Roland, you got your black cards
I'm
tonight.
gonna need you to slide your black card over
I'm
here.
gonna keep my black card.
Both of y'all black cards are being held.
No.
Yes,
You do not understand, Roland.
Both of y'all cards are being
My
held.
black card.
Y'all are in review status. Y'all black cards are in review status.
I want y'all who watch it and
No,
listen.
your black cards are in review status.
No, I'm not.
No.
I mean, that's
I'm not
just,
giving my.
that's
Greg Carr would not
No.
even take my
I would, no,
black card.
I can't pull a rank on
black-
it.
If I requested your black
No, I
card,
appreciate
Greg
you.
would pass it down.
No,
No, he wouldn't. No, he wouldn't.
This
All right,
is
y'all.
the blackest
So,
show everywhere.
Look,
you done beat up the Popeyes people, the church folks, and they snatch your black cards.
I now think, because he watches the show, I think because what you just said, I think Method Man is going to rescind what he had to say about Julianne Malveaux.
But you never showed it to me
I think
anyway.
he's going to rescind what he had to
isn't.
say. Yes, he is. And so, matter of fact, I'm going to send him a text in a minute. But we were at American Black Film Festival. So first of all, in a moment, I'm going to show y'all the Joseph Sikora interview I did with him at Essence. But before we do that, so at American Black Film Festival, we were on the red carpet for the movie Shaft. Now, of course, it didn't do well at the box office. I thought it was funny as hell. I enjoyed it my damn self. Yeah. Did you see it? Hell no, you ain't seen it.
Did not. I don't know why you did either. I don't know why you did.
It's a
Ask
black
me what
movie.
my
Why
TV
do I
diet.
think she saw
Ask
it?
me about my
You saw
TV
the original
diet.
Shaft, though.
Why not?
Oh, I
You saw
saw
the
it.
movie, the original movie. I know.
Sure, I didn't.
Shut your mouth. Wait a minute. Shut your mouth.
Hold up. You were not so confident. You were not so confident in that statement. Did you see the original Shaft?
Shaft with Richard Roundtree from the 70s?
The
Absolutely.
man said the original.
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry, Dr. Carter. Yeah. I did see the original.
The first remake that John Singleton directed with Sam Jackson.
I did not. Wait a minute. They had Christian Bale in it?
Yeah.
I did see that one.
She did see it.
I did
Look at
see it.
Roland was like, he held his breath. He was right there.
No, you have no.
The snatch
You
was
were that close to being banished from the show. You were that close to
y'all
being
next
banned
week.
from the show.
I love it.
Anyway,
That's a bad mother. Shut your mouth.
we were on the red carpet.
I didn't hear you say original.
We were on the red carpet at American Black Film Festival, and Method Man, who was in the Shaft movie, rolled up on us. I did not expect him to say any of this. So y'all watch this.
Again, Sabrina Fulton there. I'm gonna sit here. How's it going, brother?
How are you?
You all good?
Yeah, I'm maintaining. You know, I watch you on the YouTubes.
Well, you know, we try to give him a little help.
I like your little round table too. The red bone sister with the glasses, very informative.
Red bone sister with the glasses.
Yes, older lady.
Oh, Julianne Malveaux.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, see, now when I tell her that, she gonna be hyped.
I'm an admirer, man. She speaks very well too.
Well, man, look, we were looking for this. We're gonna have you on to talk some stuff.
I would love to come on.
I'm gonna get your information when we go inside.
I appreciate you.
Real quick.
Yes.
This movie here.
Johnny Blaze. Big up you like that. Johnny Blaze. Hey, look.
Johnny Blaze, a
Eric,
legend.
you can't take Erica's black card. She called the man by his nickname Johnny Blaze. I know you a hip hop.
Oh yeah, woo all
the
day
Wu
long.
Tang forever.
All day long.
Oh, but wait a minute though. Pushing up on Dr. Malveaux.
I love
Johnny
it.
Blaze, Method Man.
I love it.
What
Total
the woo?
respect.
Come on.
I love it.
Hey.
Well, you got it.
The older sister. Yeah.
Wu Tang forever.
Wu Tang. Wu Tang. Wu Tang. Wu Tang.
And if it wasn't for an alpha creating a show,
Lord.
then Method Man would not have been able to see Julianne Malveaux.